welcome you to our third Friday Forest Focus of 2021. We are pretty excited to be with you live from Seven Islands Birding State Park. This is actually a scenic view just taken a couple of days ago, and it's going to be part of what you are going to see in our tour this morning. So in this, the third of our park visits, we are pretty excited to be here on the third installment of our Hit the Trails May month. So we hope that you're participating in the Goose Chase Challenge all across the three regions of Tennessee. So this actually is the third visit that completes kind of our state regional tour. So we did West Tennessee and Meeman Shelby in week 1, week 2 last week. We were at Cedars 11 in Middle Tennessee. And today we are in East Tennessee, just a little bit outside of Knoxville at beautiful Seven Islands State Birding Park. And then next week, we are going to close up our series at Montgomery Bell State Park with Randy Hedgepath, the state naturalist from the Tennessee Park Service, who you may have met before. So I am actually standing inside the building that you're looking at right now. So this is one of the barns at Seven Islands Birding Park, and you see some of the native plantings, and that is actually going to be our first stop of the day to see some of these gardens. And we're going to talk about, of course, their native nature here in Tennessee, but also some of the wildlife that they support. So you're going to have a great chance to meet a lot of the team here at Seven Islands Birding State Park, Claire and Nate, some of our ranger team, as well as some of the great work that's going on at UT. And you're going to hear about a lot of different research connected to nature and wildlife. And so a snapshot, of course, beautiful French Broad River at a park that has literally hundreds of species of birds that are relatively frequently sighted. And so the cool thing about this park is that we have both aquatic and grasslands habitat for a very wide range of bird species, a whole lot of recreational activities, and we are just a few miles up the road from Knoxville, Tennessee. So you're going to hear lots of details about all of these opportunities throughout the course of our visit today. And you know that over the past few weeks, we've always kind of done a Species of the Week highlight. Well, today we're going to mix it up a little bit because we plant people are visiting on the topic of birds today. And so we actually have multiple Species of the Week that are very often present here at Seven Islands. This is one of them. And maybe even just pretty close to where I'm standing right now. So this is the barn owl. We also have here a lot of grasslands species. And so you're going to hear more detail about the northern bobwhite. There is both habitat work that's going on here at the park, including burning and lots of habitat management, as well as some research programs from UT that you're going to have the chance to hear about this morning. Well, there's, of course, a huge number of species, but one that you'll get a kind of glimpse a little bit of their home and their work this morning are cliff swallows in one of the to visit. And there are also a huge range of aquatic species here, including the heron, Canadian geese, some mallards, all sorts of species. And all of those would be here for your enjoyment here at the park. The final thing that I want to share with you, and Claire will probably talk about this a little bit when we kind of do our park introduction here in just a couple minutes, is actually that Seven Islands is a hotspot for the eBird monitoring system. And so this is actually a screenshot from eBird that I took this morning. So these are sightings that were posted by amateur birders right here at the park within the past day. So these are all from yesterday. So you can see there's an ongoing effort to make sure that everybody has access to the types of sightings that are seen here. And it's a great way to learn more birds and kind of know what's here in the habitat. A final couple of announcements that I want to share with you as we get started. Next month, just a little bit over a month from now, we are going to have our first Master Gardener in-person conference of what's a year and a half. And it is going to be on June the 24th in McMinnville. So we absolutely invite you to join in and come and see some great nursery tours and some of the great horticulture that takes place in Middle Tennessee. And then finally, last but not least, I definitely want to invite you to join in with us. Next week, we will be live with Randy Hedgepath at Montgomery Bell State Park. So that's a little bit of the overview of our visit today. The first stop on our part 2 is actually going to be right here at the barn and the wildlands. So I'm gonna stop my share and I'm going to change equipment here, and we'll introduce you to Claire and get you connected with the park here.
I'm Claire Datillo. I'm the seasonal interpreter here at the park, which means I do a lot of the education programs. I also do a lot of the science, like citizen science and bird monitoring stuff here and bird banding. And Seven Islands is managed for birds, of course. We're a birding park. We're actually the only state birding park, I think, in the country. And we manage mostly for grassland species. So we have a lot of grassland open fields here, but we also have wetland habitats and forested habitats. And of course, the river, the French Broad River. So we get a good variety. We've had over 215 species of birds seen here at the park. So the area that we're standing in right now is actually we're right here by the Bluebird Barn at the entrance of the park. This is the first thing that you see when you get to Seven Islands and you park in our main parking lot. You will come through the Bluebird Barn and through what we call our Wild Yards Garden. And the Wild Yards Garden, the purpose of this area is to be sort of a demonstration area for native plants. So I don't know if you want to look at some of those or talk about some of those.
let's talk a little bit about some of the native plants and some of what we've got going here in the Wildlands Garden, and I'll just follow you around.
Okay, that sounds great. Yeah, so one of my favorite plants here in the Wild Yards Garden is this honeysuckle over here. This, people are familiar with the invasive honeysuckle, Japanese honeysuckle, and the shrub, the honeysuckle that grows around here that's invasive. But this is actually a native honeysuckle called coral honeysuckle. And everything we plant here in our garden is native, but it is also stuff that benefits wildlife. And the great thing about this coral honeysuckle is that the hummingbirds absolutely love it. So, and it's beautiful. And the bees and other insects and stuff love it too. But yeah, it's a great, if you're looking for those little ruby-throated hummingbirds, those cute little guys buzzing around, this is a good place to come and spot them here at the park. And a lot of the other stuff we have, there's not as much blooming quite yet, but we do have a lot of stuff that has berries on it, like the fragrant sumac and the elderberry and the beauty berries that will all kind of be ready later in the fall and even last into the winter. So we plant those because they provide winter food, fall and winter food for birds. Lots of the birds eat them. We'll get the mockingbirds and the towhees and lots of birds that'll hang around those shrubs and eat that stuff. All of these grasses in this section of the garden right over here are great for our sparrows. The sparrows are seed-eating birds, and so they will eat these grass seeds, but they also use the grasses for cover. So they'll get down in here and be able to hide and get cover down in those plants as well.
So how long have these plantings been here? Are these relatively new?
Parts of it are new. We just put in some sections of it just this spring, but for several years now, we've been putting in a little bit at a time. We work with Overhill Gardens on this project, so they come in the spring and the fall and put in plantings.
So are these mostly managed by you guys here at the park, or are there volunteers or people that come and help you with some of these gardens?
Yeah, so we do a lot of it, but we are always looking for volunteers. If you look on our Facebook page and our website, we often post volunteer days that people can sign up for. We also would love to find people who would like to adopt sections of the garden and just be willing to kind of come out and become an expert on that section of the garden and keep the weeds out and keep the plants healthy. So. Oh, we do have, I was just reminded that we have a volunteer day on the 26th. So coming up really, really soon to help us remove some of the invasive and non-native species. So yeah, we'd love to see some of you guys there.
We can actually share that when I send out the recap video. We can share some of the opportunities that you have going on here at the park.
Great.
So one of the things that I kind of wanted to give you an opportunity to share about is a little bit of the history of the park. And I'm not sure if I mentioned it, but this is actually Tennessee's newest state park. Is that correct?
Yeah. So we just became a park in 2014. So we're not too old. Before that, we were managed by Knox County Legacy Parks for, I think, about 10 years. So so it has been managed as like a wildlife sanctuary or wildlife management area for a little while. But the interesting thing about our history is that this was all farmland. This was cattle farms, tobacco farms. This was all farm. It was farmed by mainly two families, the Kellys and the Cresswells. And then it was going to be sold, probably going to be developed and even turned into a subdivision or some sort of development. But thanks to some very generous donors, Pete and Linda Clausen, who purchased this land and then donated it first to Knox County and then eventually the state, this area was able to be preserved and protected. And we are just super grateful to them. When we get out to the bridge, that is the Pete and Linda Clausen Bridge. That's named for them. So yeah, we're just really grateful to even have this space and have it protected for the birds and everything else that's out here. So this section is, like I said, where a lot of our grasses are. Different parts of the gardens are sort of dedicated to specific things. So we have an area down here that is just for pollinators. So we can go down and look at that. And these are the elderberries right here we're just passing. They're not blooming right now, but they have beautiful blooms that attract insects, but they also have those berries in the fall. And the wild blue indigo is probably the highlight of the garden right now. It's really beautiful with these purple flowers on it. And this is great for pollinators, attracts the butterflies and bees. And it's just
Great multi-season where we have the blooms as well as the seed pod later in the year.
yeah. So that's a really nice one. This area right here will have a lot of our pollinator plants in it as well. One of my favorite is this rattlesnake master down here. Again, it's not blooming quite yet, but the rattlesnake master is just an interesting, strange plant. But it does attract a lot of the insects and bees, and it also is the host plant for a couple of very rare moth species. So that's kind of a neat little fact about that one.
So have you seen the moths here?
I haven't. No.
Yeah.
No, they're tiny little things that I'm not real familiar with. But yeah. And then over in this section of the garden, we do have our vernal pool area it's planted with more wetland or wet stuff. You can see there's a willow tree back in there. And this is our newest planting here. So we call it our garden of flags right now because there's not a lot coming up yet, but give it a little time and it's going to be spectacular.
So we are right here, and I hope you guys can see the barn in the background here. So tell us a little bit about some of the bird species that might use some of the structures here at the park.
Yeah, sure. So just right now, we can probably even go in there and see it in a second. The barn swallows are using this barn. So if you're walking through the bluebird barn, watch out. They sometimes like to dive bomb you, and they get a little defensive of their nest, but they're really well adapted to be around people too. So, they built it there knowing that people were coming in and out of that barn. So barn swallows definitely use them. We do have barn owls here at the park. I can't really tell you where to find them because we just never really know, but we do have the maple leaf barn here. I mean, the bluebird barn here, and then the maple leaf barn all the way at the end of the road. That are always good places to look up into the rafters and see if you see a barn owl. But you just never know if you're going to see one or not. I can't guarantee it. Yeah. So, these shrubs here, just as we're walking by them too, these are the fragrant sumac, and they're just a really pretty kind of low growing shrub that has nice berries and really fragrant leaves too. And that is a nice native shrub that's great for the berries in the winter for the birds.
Yeah. And as we go in, you'll see our native wisteria here. So this is not the Chinese wisteria.
Yes, we wouldn't plant that.
Yeah. So a little bit less aggressive, shall we say. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And beautiful. Yeah. So we can take a look at this barn swallow nest here. So they build these little cup-shaped mud nests right on the rafters in the barn. This is a fresh one right here in the center. And I can't really see up there right now if there's eggs in it, but they've been very active. So I'm guessing there's probably some eggs or babies in there.
Thanks so much, Claire. That was an awesome introduction to the barn area and to the Wildlands Garden. And right now, we are going to pass the proverbial microphone to our friend Seth Whitehouse and Ranger Nate.
All right. We got Nate here. Thank you. Perfect. In front of the greenhouse. Sorry about that.
All right. I'm Nate Housley. I'm a park ranger here at Seven Islands State Birding Park, and the only state birding park here we have in Tennessee. We're going to talk about an area of the park we call the greenhouse and what's around the area. And so we'll start by walking this way a little bit, and we're approaching our beehives. So we have 2 hives here. We started them back last April with a TDOT grant. We got 10,000, a nuke with 10,000 nukes, and then we had a queen in each. And they are very active today because it's hot and there's a lot of pollen out there, so they can go out there and gather and start making honey and everything they like to do. And they are working pretty hard today. So me and another ranger kind of head taking care of these guys here at the park. And we had our hives inspected regularly, and they're doing very healthy, which is always good to hear. And so, the TDOT helped us out by giving us a good grant to get these guys going. And we also have some pollinator which we planted for them as well to help them along. But here at the park, if you do a panorama, you can see lots of little blackberry patches. So this will be a blackberry hotspot here with all the pollinating that'll get done. We're actually behind this house is where the bees in the box we were just at. The greenhouse was named after the last family that lived here. So we just call it the greenhouse. It's not actually a greenhouse. There's no plants or nothing growing in there. But the house, we use it for our bird banding and all that. We also have a panel up here that talks a little more about that. On the front porch, though, you can see we have a red rocking chair. And the red rocking chair was donated last year in honor of Miss Linda Clausen, who Pete and Linda Clausen were they kind of founded this property and had the dream of turning it into a bird sanctuary. So this is all, we're here because of their dream. And so she actually passed away last year, sadly. But they honor her, one, by the rocking chair here. And if you want to pan to the left, we have an orchard here, and there's 25 apple trees, and they're all heritage apple trees. There's 13 different species. And ironically, we planned on doing the orchard, and then come to find out that apples were also important to Miss Clausen, and apple trees in particular were important in her life and lifestyle. So when we got word of this, the Clausen family, we bounced the idea of donating, or not donating, but naming or commemorating the orchard in her name. So now if you come, you'll see this is the Linda Clausen apple orchard, and we have some beautiful clover that's blooming over the crimson clover that's blooming over the orchard now. So this is good ground cover, good for the pollinators. The bees actually love this stuff too. It's just a beautiful spot, and we were honored to name it after her. So we were really glad the family got in behind that. So it's a cool coincidence that worked out in the favor, and we're glad it'll be here forever now. So if you're in the park and you want to check it out, the apples will not be edible this year. Obviously, this is a new orchard, but hopefully in the 4 to 5 year span. It's not planted for human consumption. You can eat them; they're fine. But we really planted it for wildlife. So humans can't eat these. It's not like that. But it's mainly planted for wildlife. So these trees will be semi-dwarfed, so they'll grow 12 to 14 foot in height. And so there'll be, like I said, 25 different varieties, and they bloom at different times of the year, but mainly in the spring. So if you're out in the park and want to grab an apple tree in 4 years, or an apple in 4 years, do help yourself. So
Perfect. All right. We'll swing it back over to you, Natalie. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Nate and Seth. We're going to pass the mic now to Celeste and Evangeline to give us a Goose Chase update.
Hey, y'all. My name is Celeste Scott, and I'm the county extension agent in Madison County. And we're just going to give you a few little updates here about what's going on in Goose Chase. So, Evangeline, do you want to kind of like fill them in the background in case we've got a couple new folks with us? And I'll try to get logged on with my phone, and we'll show the people who are in the lead. We'll just go ahead and introduce Goose Chase to those of you who might not be familiar. This is a brand new, we're kind of being the guinea pigs, I guess you might say, for a brand new app. And what it's meant to do is kind of be an interactive activity that master gardeners from all across the state can do together, sharing information, sharing pictures, and just, giving everybody an opportunity, an excuse, if you will. Not that we need an excuse to get outside, because I know most of you love nature, but just another reason for us to get out and visit some of our natural areas and state parks across the state. And it's a virtual scavenger hunt. If you have not signed up for it yet, you still have time. The scavenger hunt has been running the entire month of May, and it will go through the very last day of May. So you still have plenty of time to hop on there and get yourself fixed up. If you need a little extra guidance on, step-by-step instructions on how to download Goose Chase onto your phone, just go to the website. We created a website for this entire month of May, Hit the Trails. We will certainly put that in the chat box. And there's a tab on the top right-hand corner that says Goose Chase. Just click on that. It'll pull up a very detailed screenshot, step-by-step examples on how to get signed up with that. And Evangeline, do we have our sound yet?
Yes, I do have my sound. Yeah, I just got all my new computers hooked up from UT and didn't get the sound going yet. But anyways, let me pull up here. It's been really cool going through and seeing all of the participants putting in their photos and their videos. I've seen people kayaking, I've seen people fishing, I've seen people taking selfies with park rangers and at state park signs. I've seen wildflowers, plants, mountains, sunsets off of docks. It's just really cool to see everybody getting out there and taking the photos and sharing their experiences with one another. So again, if you haven't started Goose Chase yet, I strongly encourage people to go ahead and give it a try and download it. It's very user friendly and easy to access and to share your experiences with. And Celeste, if you want to, I have the Goose Chase website pulled up. Okay, yeah. I can just share my screen if you don't mind.
Sure, that'd be awesome.
Okay. So we're just going to go ahead really quick and take a look at who is in the running. And so we can see here, first we have Miss Sarah Wade in first with 480 points. We have Miss Judy Elglin at 405, and then BB Inc. Under a surname here at 385 points, and it just kind of goes on, and you can see all these people entering in. Celeste, do you think it's okay if I show some of the submitted photos? Yeah? Okay, I like that. Let's go here. We're just going to take a look at some of the things people have been posting. Ranger danger, fishing. Hopefully she's luckier than me when it comes to fishing because I can't catch anything. And as you can see, there's just lots of really cool photos being posted and videos.
And so also I wanted to add, some of these are photo challenges, just still photos, and some are video challenges. Here, Can we play one of those video challenges?
Yeah.
Here's my husband, Tony. He is such a great guy, such an adventurous, and I love being married to him and all the adventures we go on. There he is kayaking. Looks so good. And I'm right here. I'm not skilled enough in photography to turn this thing around, but here we are at Timms Ford State Park and getting ready to spend several hours on the water.
Love it.
It's going to be fun.
Love it. Yeah, that's pretty. Oh wait, I'm gonna play this one and then I'll stop. I just gotta play one more. This is cool looking.
Oh, that is beautiful. Does it say where they were at?
I'm trying to find it because I want to go, but I don't see anything popping up in terms of a caption.
So for those of you who didn't know, when you submit a video challenge or a photo challenge, there is an option to add a caption, and you can just, please type in where you are, or if it's a a plant, and the identity of it, go ahead and, share that with others and let them know what it is that we're looking at. That'd be awesome. Because we tried to make the challenges pretty general in nature. So take a picture of a wildflower, take a picture of a fungus, take a picture of a, so on and so forth. So not super specific. And we tried to make them so they could be flexible no matter what part of the state you're in.
Hey, Evangeline, yes, we are live at the bridge.
Okay,
Yay!
I will stop my share.
All right, y'all, please join us on Goose Chase if you haven't already. It'll be tons of fun.
We are here at the bridge with Claire and with Doug, and we are looking forward to telling you a little bit about Grassland's birds.
Hi, like she said, my name's Doug Mitchell. I'm a PhD student at University of Tennessee, Knoxville. I study birds in general, but I try to focus on the northern bobwhite and grassland specific species as well. Particularly, I study northern bobwhites in agricultural settings. So we're trying to find an interface between private lands conservation and public lands conservation. Where can those things meet up and find a happy medium?
So how long have you been at UT?
Oh gosh, it's been a long 2 or 3 years. I think I'm in my third year.
Some number of years.
Yeah, 2 or 3. Yeah.
We can take a little bit of a walk here if you want to tell us a little bit about what we're looking at and some of the ways that it connects to grassland bird species.
Sure. Yeah. We can take a walk down the dirt road if that's what you want.
Yeah.
Let's take a walk. So this field was burned in April, I believe. So 30 to 40 days ago. And I believe they burn it every year. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Everything's on about a 3-year.
Okay. That's even better. So traditional management for grasslands includes burning or some sort of grazing regime with cattle. So what I am seeing is very indicative of a burn. I'm seeing native warm season grasses, which are these, we got these bunchy grasses down here. And I'm also seeing cool season grasses and a lot of forbs. And forbs is just a fancy term for weeds, broadleaf weeds. And we don't want those in our garden, but a lot of wildlife benefit from broadleaf weeds. They produce seeds. And are also home to insect life, which is also food for birds and other critters. So the reason burning is so critical is because here, this far east of the Mississippi River, we get 70 or 80 inches of rain a year. So if we didn't burn this every 3 or 4 years, this would be a forest in no time. So we have to set these fires, set back that woody vegetation, and keep this herbaceous green stuff growing.
So some of the woody species would be fairly familiar to folks, say something along the lines of wild blackberries.
I see a lot of remnant blackberry stalks. You'll see dogwoods pop up in fields and things like that. Dogwoods are great, but if we had a whole field of dogwoods, well, it's no longer a grassland. So sweet gums will pop up, sycamores or ash, depending on the soil type. But don't, like I said, don't get me wrong. A few blackberry patches every once in a while is great habitat for a lot of birds, but we don't want the whole field to look like that.
So tell us a little bit about maybe the species of interest here, which would be northern bobwhite, right?
Right. Yeah. So right before the camera turned on, I heard 3 different northern bobwhites whistling. One about 200 meters that way, one on the edge of the forest to our left, and another one was kind of in a mystery spot. And this field looks to be about maybe 30 or probably 30 acres. I'm just kind of guessing by looking at it. I mean, that's pretty normal for good bobwhite habitat to hear 3 or 4 birds whistling in a field this size. That's pretty good.
So they're literally nesting in the grassland, right?
So when you hear that bobwhite whistle, he's saying, hey, this is my spot. The females in this area I intend to mate with them, and we're going to build a nest somewhere around this area. So I wouldn't be surprised if there were 2 or 3 nests being constructed here in this field.
All right.
Yeah.
Claire, is there anything you want to throw in from a park angle?
Not really. It just that the northern bobwhite is kind of our umbrella species. So by managing with their needs in mind, that also produces habitat for lots of other birds as well. But because if you make something for one species, you're going to get a lot of other stuff that uses similar habitat.
So what other species might there be?
Sure. So I'm hearing a lot of indigo buntings, common yellowthroats, field sparrows. I hear a lot of those. Let's see, what's another good one? I was hoping to hear a Henslow sparrow. I haven't heard one today. It doesn't mean they're not here.
They're here occasionally,
Yeah.
but they're not as common as some of the others.
Yeah, maybe a grasshopper sparrow might pop up. They tend to like more bare ground and things like that. And all of these birds are particularly cool because most of them are in decline. Birds in general are declining over the past 50 or 60 years. Grassland birds are particularly in a pickle. I won't say endangered because they're not technically endangered yet, but we have seen rapid declines in grassland species in the past 50 or 60 years. And for example, the northern bobwhite, which is our romanticized interest here, 85% of the population has gone since the mid 1960s, and that averages out to about 3 to 5% lost every year. So places like Seven Islands, I think there's about 400 acres here total. That's a really, really good hotspot to manage for species like bobwhite quail, because you can't just manage 20 acres at a time. You need a bigger area, about the size of Seven Islands. So this is a perfect spot.
So we had a good question that was about bobwhites that just popped into the chat, and it
Sure.
was, what do nests look like? Are you actually being able to find nests, or do you kind of just disturb the birds themselves and they?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's one way to do it. You can stomp around in the field and hope to accidentally scare one off the nest. During my own research activities, I put radio collars on bobwhites and I follow them around. They're very secretive. I actually, don't tell anybody this, but I accidentally stepped on one while I was doing telemetry. They're very secretive, so they're not always likely to just fly away. A nest, they are ground nesters. If you'll zoom in, this is actually a really good spot. If you'll zoom in right here, what a bobwhite will do is it'll weave a nest on the ground at the base of these native warm season grass tussocks, and it'll look like they also call it an oven, but it's just a dome shaped, almost like an igloo of woven grass, about 4 to 6 inches tall. And either the female or the male bobwhite will incubate the nest.
Cool. So we had a little bit of additional questions about like bobwhite behavior and habitat. So what do they eat?
Oh, they eat a little bit of everything. I would say that they're primarily granivorous, which means they eat, weed seeds and things like that. But in the summertime, they hammer down on those grasshoppers, especially the baby grass or the baby bobwhites. They need that extra protein and some of the other chemicals that are in grasshoppers to help them grow quickly.
Okay, cool. So when you talk about the decline of the bobwhite population, is that primarily due to habitat disturbance? Is that due to predation?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. And that's one of the most popular questions of all time. Wildlife biologists and non-wildlife biologists love to argue about what is happening to the bobwhite quail. The ultimate cause is habitat loss. You're looking at this field. This is a weedy field, and it's going to stay like this all summer. This day and age, that is extremely unusual. You can drive down the road and you'll see a field like this, and it'll stay that way for 4 or 5 weeks. And then somebody will come and turn it into hay, or they'll do something else to it. And then that's no longer bobwhite habitat. So cultural practices of humans, agricultural practices have really negatively affected the bobwhites recently. So it all boils down to habitat loss.
Doug, thank you very much. You just increased my knowledge of bobwhites exponentially.
From the grasslands, we're going to head to waterfowl and cliff swallows, and Claire's going to close us out for our session today.
I'm just going to show you a little bit of an up close of one of the cliff swallow nests, and Claire's right behind me, and she actually knows something about these species.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is their nest that they're making out of mud, and I don't know if you can see one right now. Usually, one parent stays in the nest, so you can see their head kind of sticking out while the other parent's out, actively doing what they do. But yeah, lots of them to see here.
And all of the pillars, actually, most of the middle pillars have many more nests than we see on this one close, and you can just see all the swallows just bouncing along the river and creating their homes.
So this is the Pete and Linda Clausen Bridge, and it crosses the French Broad River here. Broad starts in Asheville, North Carolina, and runs through here, and just a few miles down from the park here, it's going to meet up with the Holston, and it's going to become the Tennessee River. So we're almost at the end of the French Broad River here. The water levels here are managed by Douglas Dam. So there's great kayaking and canoeing opportunities here. As well as, a chance to spot some waterfowl and that sort of thing. But you do have to watch for the water levels because they can shift. But you can find out about that on the TVA website and their dam schedule. But yeah, this time of year, we usually have a large flock of Canada geese out here in the water. And I actually see, I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but there's a great blue heron standing out there in the river. So we can walk up here where we can get a little bit better shot of it, but yeah, we also a lot of times will see wood ducks down in this area along the water. Just the other day, I saw a couple of wood duck parents with, I don't even know how many babies were out there. I couldn't even count them. They were pretty far away, but there were lots of little baby wood ducks out in the river. Pretty cute to see that. We also, especially in the winter, we'll kind of get some other duck species that will occasionally pop up here.
We kind of lost signal from Seth and Nate over at the bird box, but you could see a little bit of, they were showing a nesting box. So I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about kind of what they were showing in some of the nesting boxes here at the park.
Sure. Yeah, we have at least 60 of that type of nest box here in the park. Most of them are for to attract eastern bluebirds, although eastern bluebirds are a cavity nester, which means they will nest inside of a structure, inside of a hollow structure, like a hollow tree or a nest box. And so sometimes we get other cavity nesters that will use them too, like chickadees and titmice and wrens. And probably what you were seeing in that one was a tree swallow. And tree swallows, I think, are just so cool because they line their nest with bird feathers from other birds, and they're just really pretty nests. They're also like fierce parents that a lot of times will like dive bomb your head when you're trying to check the nest box, which is entertaining. But we try not to bother them too much, but we do monitor them and to check on the nest status and collect data on that. And we also band the babies. I think I heard Nate talking a little bit about our banding. We that's just putting a little metal bracelet with a number on a bird so that we can, if we catch that bird again, we know a little bit about their age and how they're doing, so we do a lot of that here in the park.
All right, so we're kind of coming to the conclusion of our visit, Claire. This has been an awesome chance to get to see one of Tennessee's newest state parks. I want to give you a chance to tell people what to come and do here at the park.
Yeah, absolutely. So like I said, if you've never been here before, start out by getting out of your car at the parking lot and going through the Bluebird Barn and take a look at our Wild Yards Garden where we were just a little while ago. And then if you just continue on that trail that goes straight from the barn, you'll end up out here at the bridge where you can see the beautiful French Broad River and watch the cliff swallows. If you're up for a little bit more, we have 9 miles of trails in the park. So you can take a hike down the Seclusion Bend Trail along the river. I do recommend, especially in the summertime, get here early because since we're a grassland, we have limited shade and it can get a little bit hot out here. But if you're in the right parts of the park, you can definitely find shade year round. And if you are looking for another little adventure, just taking your kayak out here on the French Orange Broad River. It's a great little trip. It's a nice, easy float through the park and beyond.
All right, and you can check out eBird for replant people, learn some new species, and get acquainted with some of the great other elements of nature here in the great state of Tennessee. So,
oh, and if you are interested in, coming out and walking around with a ranger and being part of a program, we also do a lot of education programs, stuff for adults and kids, lots of birding stuff, and you can find out about that on our website or our Facebook page.
and you can probably tell from some of the shots and from the sound in the background, we've got a lot of visitors here right now, a lot of young people getting introduced to wildlife in Tennessee. So we are closing out our third Friday focus of the month. I want to thank you all for joining in with us. By all means, jump on Goose Chase, go travel around, see some of the great nature sites and learn about the ecology and plants and wildlife of Tennessee. As you can tell, we were all over the place today with our cell phone service, but we thank you for hanging in there with us. It has been awesome to get to introduce you to the newest state park in Tennessee. So you have a great weekend. Get out, enjoy some nature, and we will see you next Friday for our capstone end of session of our Friday Focus Park series. Have a beautiful weekend, and we will see you all next week.